Hello everyone, Raijin Rising here, and after much anticipation, the RWBY Volume 7 original soundtrack has released, complete with 9 new songs, which is more than any other, depending on how you look at Volume 1's. In this video, I'll review it a little differently, by asking 3 questions. 1. How well are the songs used in the show? 2. How well do the full versions expand upon them? And 3. Does the soundtrack tell the volume's full story? Or are some characters or story beats missing? Unlike every volume except Volume 3, each Volume 7 song is in the show proper. The show uses every song to tell the story that the songs are about. On top of the songs just being about the characters or about the story actually uses the songs to tell that story. And that can make a scene go from good to great and beyond. Take Volume 6's One Thing, about Neo's drive for vengeance. It plays while she's fighting for it, and it's excellent. Volume 4 has Home, play at the end of an inter-kingdom journey, stressing that Team Ranger was always at home along the way, and that's also wonderful, and it complements the score that surrounds it well. Not to mention that No Safe Haven Part 2 is already exceptional in its own regard. Part of why I want to speak of the way a song is used in the show versus its full version is because the portions of the songs that play in the show proper are all Jeff Williams has made of them up until that point. Listen to this clip from a Discord chat Murder of Birds released with him and some of his Patreon backers talking with Jeff Williams.
From what I've heard already, I really liked. I didn't get the name of it, but it was the song that was playing during the fight with like that dragon grim with Sun and Blake.
Yeah, that one's kind of cool. I'm anxious to see how that one plays out as a full-length song.
Yeah. Because
right now, what you heard of it is all that exists of it. So I went into it calling that thing From Shadows Part 2.
Oh,
but I don't know if that's true though. You know, I wouldn't. I'm telling you that, but I'm also telling you it. I don't think it's actually going to be that.
Yeah, it honestly, to be honest,
it's different enough. Yeah.
Really, yeah.
You know, at the beginning of the season, we'll talk about the different places where we all think a song might fit in. You know, ultimately it's really up to them, except that sometimes I can, you know, convince them, you know, like if I just go ahead and put together a song and then say, well, yeah, I know you said you didn't think you'd want a song there, but check this out. I think it works.
Jeff and the crewbie come together to decide what portions of the show should have songs, and Jeff makes music for just those bits before going back to them and turning them into complete songs when it's all done. At the time, he spoke of From Shadows Part 2 because that's what he thought Like Morning Follows Night was going to be, before realizing it fit more into something completely different. And again, the last point of this video is going to be asking what topics are chosen to have music about them. What character or what point in the story should get a song about them and which don't. Volume 5 ought to have a song about Ilya, because that is her volume to shine. And Volume 2's Shine is inseparable from the Beacon dance arc. So, no, I'm not using this video to talk about the musicality of the songs. I don't mean to talk about them on a technical level because to me they're all just great as pieces of music. Though whatever notes of appreciation I do have, I'll say, because there's so much good going on here. Let's start with Trust Love. It sets the stage for the volume extremely well, that the volume really does seem to be about trust. It's not. To Ironwood, it's about loyalty, but to the heroes, it's about trust, and that's important. The song appears as from the perspective of the heroes, who want Ironwood to trust love and trust humanity, and open up his eyes to the other perspectives, and not believe in just himself and his ideals, and do all these unilateral things based on solely himself. Trust Love weaves a thread that appears in every episode and unravels beautifully in Chapter 11, Gravity. It isn't Volume 3's When It Falls that speaks of calamity when half the volume doesn't entirely fit to that. As for the full version, the added portion is much in the same vein as the previous installments, but that's a good thing. A fitting second verse and guitar solo round it out, so there's much more that doesn't feel too different that would be hard to love. Touch the Sky is used wonderfully in the show, and for the longest song, it's the shortest piece in the show. It is used to set the tone for the early period of Volume 7, where the heroes are just getting their feet off the ground and into the sky. The heroes have agreed upon a plan with Ironwood, who seems to be doing well. They've met the Aesops with a better second impression than the first. They have new combat outfits and upgraded weapons, and so forth. It's all looking up, so they're looking up too. It's in Chapter 3, and it comes right off the outfit and upgrade montage, and is responsible for this great energy in the transition to the mission to the mines. Despite the volume premiere's rocky first impressions, of which there are many, the heroes believe they really have the chance to do some serious good. And just as a song, it's a great way to start the day. The music and lyrics exude an extremely contagious level of drive and optimism, so it's wonderful in its own regard. Plus, it doesn't make any reference to the show, so even though it speaks for a point in the narrative, it doesn't have to be about the show, which you can't say for most Ruby songs. That may seem counterintuitive for a song on a show's soundtrack, but I love that about it.
It's feeling like a brand new day.
Brand New Day comes 2 chapters later, and it's used for the montage to show the heroes truly meshing into life at Atlas, doing all the small tasks necessary to get the Amity Tower ready. No task is too small for a job that big. Though the song is about Crow, which is true for the lyrics that do appear in the show proper as well, it does extend to everybody. It comes at the beginning of Crow's self-love arc, before there's too much of a dynamic between him and Clover. So in some way, I guess you could say that it's a little out of place, but in other ways, it establishes that arc well, depending on how you look at it. In the full version, Jeff and Casey bounce off each other so well. They each get a turn for a verse, and they sing the last chorus back and forth. With that and the background vocals, this sounds like it was a lot of fun to record, let alone to play it back. And much like Touch the Sky, that fun is contagious.
Party people gonna stay up late. Oh, celebrate.
Celebrate is a bop. Once again, Volume 7 uses a soundtrack song to set a positive mood, this time with Celebrate in Robin's preemptive victory party. And for once, the song is actually present in the world of the show, like Volume 4's This Life Is Mine, Volume 2's Shine, and probably more. Watson Tyrion coming to commit mass murder hits harder because this song played before that. And like Touch the Sky, this song is only to do with Ruby because it played in the show. It wouldn't feel like one otherwise, which again, to me, is actually a positive. Lamar Hall even references the Vegas Strip instead of, I don't know, some greedy place in Mistral. And again, I do like that.
Let's get real. Tell me what's the deal. I gotta know what you're thinking.
Let's Get Real plays over Ren and Nora's kiss, as well it should. The cut that plays in the episode is not too far a cry from Celebrate in its tone, so it still fits the feel of the rally well, while the full version expands on it and makes it feel like it's from the Beacon arc. It's like a Boop Part 2, while also hitting the same notes as Gold, as Neon, and especially Shine. Going back to that Discord chat with Jeff Williams, he also said this.
I guess, like for me, like the funnest part of making music is just being able to move through different styles, to do Boop and Shine and Die and have them on the same record, like to me that's the fun part of the whole thing. I'll tell you something I've been struggling with a little bit lately, which is that like the show doesn't have the light moments lately,
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It used to have these light moments, and that gave me the ability to write these lighter pieces of music, Shine was for a very specific reason.
Jeff saw the Beacon arc as his chance to make all the positive, optimistic music that he could before the story would take on a more serious tone overall. And yet, here we are in Volume 7. Salem is on Atlas's doorstep, but they don't know that yet, so while we're here, let's Get Real. The volume as a whole is good at balancing that serious tone with lighter moments, so while Tyrion's body count rises, the heroes still act like the adolescents they are, and the soundtrack has Trust Love, Brand New Day, Touch the Sky, Celebrate, and Let's Get Real. If you didn't hear Fear or Until the End, again, this soundtrack as a whole would sound like it's from the Beacon arc. That's thanks in no small part to Let's Get Real and its tongue-in-cheek references.
And we belong together, 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 together. To be strong, I'll be a hero. Just hold on.
Hero is amazing, and it's just one of the many pieces that come together to make Chapter 11 one of the best the show has ever seen. As if what plays during Ironwood and Watts' fight, and the way that it is incorporated into that fight, isn't enough, the full version expands upon that in ways that bring out Caleb Hyles' incredible versatility and range. I had heard his covers of Red Like Roses and This Life Is Mine before his appearance in the soundtrack, but I didn't know it was him at first. Needless to say, he is a wonderful fit. Caleb brings a rock opera vibe to Hero in a way that we haven't heard since Casey's This Life Is Mine. And although that genre is more impactful for the Volume 4 song, Caleb's voice hits every part of it too, and to fantastic effect. General Jimothy Ironwood finally has his own song. Until Volume 4, the Ruby score has used the same musical theme for anything related to Atlas, whether that's Ironwood, or the Kingdom, or his military. You know, this theme. Atlas gets its own theme starting in Volume 4, but James and his military still had to share, and to some extent they probably still will from time to time. But I mean, now the score can finally use Hero instead, to key in on specifically Ironwood and that thick metal head of his. So when Ironwood calls for the hero's arrests, and you hear this, it hits, and I'm thankful. Back to talking about the song, of course, as Ironwood's song, it expands upon what we know of him in the show. His willingness to do whatever it takes to stop Salem, no matter how many lives are inconvenienced, put down, or just straight up lost in the process, so long as it can secure her defeat. He will make those unilateral decisions without remorse, and he detests Ozpin's approach.
If it's war that you want, then you get it. If it's pain, then I brought what you need. If it's true what you say, you're the best.
Do I honestly believe Ozpin's children can win a war? Well, they can, and they did, while a song named War played in the background. 4 vocalists, Casey Lee Williams, Adrienne Cohen, Dawn M. Bennett, and Aaron Riley came together to bring this song to life. And given that the world of Remnant has a rule of 4s, it fit extremely well. This song plays over part of the fight between Team Ruby and the Aesops. At first, Team Ruby struggles against their former comrades, but once Blake and Yang manage to take down Vine, everyone sees it, the mental game shifts to Team Ruby's favor, and the song kicks in. Team Ruby's bonds are built on trust, while the Aesops are built on loyalty. Trust wins the clash of ideals, and the full version makes full note of it. This is present in every verse, but especially when the lyrics call out Volume 2's theme song, Time to Say Goodbye. Personally, I do love this song, but the harmonies between the voices don't really come through to the fullest that I think they could. Sometimes it's difficult to tell if multiple people are singing, or one is dominant and drowns the others out to an extent. It's good that it's not all harmony. Different voices should have their own lines, but when they come together, it doesn't hit as well as I think it could, given the mix. It's still a great song regardless.
I promise I'll be here until the end.
Until the End is... I don't have the words for this song. I am still awestruck every time I listen to it. Whether it's for how the finale uses it, or for how Casey expands upon it in the full version, or just plain Casey's singing voice, the song is everything it needs to be. The volume finale uses Until the End to cap it off with an uncertain vibe, that a lot of new questions are posed with the changing circumstances. It plays over a sequence of cuts that wrap every character's story arc, right along with Ozpin's monologue. The sound crew absolutely nailed this scene. With so many layers, I can only imagine the troubles that it caused, but everything comes through and beautifully. Every RWBY soundtrack has a ballad, and ones that stick with me are the most character-driven ones. Volume 1's Wings gets to Blake's character running from her past, running into being on Team RWBY and rebuilding herself there. Volume 4's Home is, as I said, about Team Ranger being at home with each other as they travel through the unknown. Volume 5's All That Matters is from Yang's perspective, as she deals with the emotional fallout a few volumes in the making, that she feels Blake betrayed the bond she made with Yang when she ran. A bond that, when you hear the guitar piece, definitely comes across as romantic. And Until the End is from RWBY's perspective, that after Volume 7's climax, she is left to deal with the fallout of Ironwood casting them aside after everything was looking up. And she doesn't know what to believe about the world anymore after her role model mother, Salem, discarded her like it was nothing but inevitable from the start. Until the End is the first Ruby Rose-centric song since Volume 1. Again, home is there, it speaks to RWBY. Indomitable is inseparable from Monty Ohm, but the part that's in the show is also inseparable from everything RWBY speaks to at the end of Volume 6. But Until the End is just about Ruby Rose. After the finale, I noted how some of its lyrics connected to RWBY, but it seemed like it was just a narrative-driven song. And then for the speaker to mention light filling their eyes and trying to be this inspirational figure, I loved hearing Until the End become a Ruby Rose song. There's also this captivating reverb effects on Casey's voice that adds to the song's suspended vibe.
Who will you see there in the darkness when no one...
Fear is the Volume 7 end credits song, and it plays off Ozpin's monologue, which plays off every character's interaction with Fear through the entire volume. It fits so well that I made a music video for it. I couldn't stop seeing all the connections to the point where I just had to get them out of my head and onto the screen because they were all so great. No other Volume 7 song would be a better end credits song. Maybe Hero just because Ironwood is such a well-written and defining character for this arc, but Fear speaks to every character, not just him. I really could go on for a long while about Fear, but anything I have to say I've already said by making that video, and how I made that video. All the connections the song has to the volume, it's crazy, it's a shameless plug, but it's true. If you want to know more about how I feel, go watch it.
I may fall, but not like this. It won't.
As much as I don't really listen to the acoustic or remix versions of songs, let's talk about them. I May Fall is a great song from Volume 1, though I have to admit that I haven't sought it out to listen to in just about that long. Its use in Volume 3 made me care a lot more, seeing Velvet get her moment as it played, and now in Volume 7 with its acoustic, I really enjoy it, more than the original. Volume 1's original version is interesting, using stereo output to put Jeff in the left ear and Casey in the right one when they sing together. I hadn't heard anything like that before. Casey is the acoustic's only singer though, and the song is transformed into something out of an anime movie. Or more specifically, something out of Your Name. This is the start of I May Fall.
There's a day when our hearts will be broken.
And this is from Your Name. I May Fall.
There's a day when our hearts will be broken.
Your Name. So yeah, the string instrument and piano from this acoustic version evoke memories of that movie for me. Maybe that's why it's so favorable to me. Maybe if I missed that connection, the impact would be gone, and I would look at this the same way as I looked at the original version. So I hope I don't stop seeing that movie in this song. I'm really glad that the more recent acoustic versions have fit into different genres within that medium. I remember when Boop got its acoustic, I figured it was going to be a little slower and sadder than it turned out to be, and I've come to love it. Armed and Ready, of course, it is such a fun listen. And now with I May Fall, it's another solid acoustic for sure. I was pleasantly surprised with the Nevermore remix. Oftentimes, as much as I hate to say it, the remixes have been so forgettable. I can't even remember what most of the remixed songs are. Whenever a new album comes out, I'll listen to the remix to see what it is, and then never again. A few of them here and there, I remember feeling as if multiple people took different parts of the song, remixed them, and put them back together. And then it didn't work, but then that's how it got released. To me, that's what those sound like a lot of the time. Nevermore, however, does work very well. I'm still not one for EDM, but it's good, and it's great to see Nevermore getting more love. Now to talk about the soundtrack as a whole. One thing that surprised me was that there were so few songs about characters this volume. Hero, Until the End. That's it. You could argue for Brand New Day or Let's Get Real or even more, but they are tied enough to specific points in the narrative that they lose that impact for me. Even Until the End is tied to a specific moment, but at least it only speaks for Ruby Rose. Volume 7 contains no song for Watts, or Tyrion, or the Happy Huntresses. If Christina V doesn't lend her voice to a Volume 8 Happy Huntress song, now that is wasted potential. So I'm kind of bummed that there aren't more songs about characters, but there aren't that many songs about characters because every song is in the show proper, and I can't possibly speak to how great that is. Part of that is only possible because the volume appears to have such a healthy production schedule. In order to plan for 9 songs to be in the show? One of the things I remember about Volume 5 is that you don't hear a new song from the soundtrack until Chapter 12? Of course, Volume 5 has the 3 character shorts that each bring a new song to the table. But not having a new song for the first 11 chapters is probably partially because the production was not that great. This Life Is Mine does play a little bit in Chapter 2, but that's from Volume 4. The fact that it wasn't too much of a burden for Volume 7's production that the writers wrote for 2 songs to be in Chapter 6, and then both happened? And again, 9 songs is more than the usual, and they all made it into the volume. That's insane for this show to be able to pull off if we're talking again about Volume 5. If the Volume 7 OST is missing anything specific, I'd say it's a villain song. Watts and Tyrion commanded our attention and kept it engaging the whole way through, and they did it with wonderful accompaniment from the official score. There's absolutely wonderfully unsettling score, but a bona fide song would be just as welcome. So a Tyrion and or Watts song and a Happy Huntress song are what I am most pulling for in Volume 8's original soundtrack. All in all, the RWBY Volume 7 original soundtrack hits so many wonderful beats. I'll be listening to it for a long time coming. And I'd be remiss not to mention the score in some capacity, so I will make a video on it soon, along with a full-on Volume 7 review before Volume 8 hits on November 7th. Which Volume 7 song is your favorite? And do you think the soundtrack is missing anything? Let me know down below. Like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. I'm Raijin Rising. Have a good one.